What's up, boys and girls? It is Q&A time. I'm going to try to answer what I thought were the best questions I got, both here on my YouTube and on Reddit. So these are in no particular order, but here we go. First one's from Cody, who's a good friend of mine from high school. He knew me when I was 140 pounds, so this one's for you. He asked, what's the best way to train grip? In my opinion, the best way to train grip is to train it separately from everything. Don't rely on just deadlifting or just doing rows or whatever to get your grip training in. Do something like plate pinches. Great one is take some 10-pound plates, put them together, hold them as long as you can. Do one arm at a time, both arms, great. Farmer's walks can be great for building grip strength. That shouldn't be necessarily what they're used for, but that's a great way to specifically work your grip and get a little bit of conditioning, and maybe great way to do it. Another way, simple, find a pull-up bar, just hang as long as you can. Hang different directions, supinate, pronate, neutral, whatever, just hang. Pretty simple way to go about it. Doesn't take a lot of effort, a lot of planning, just hang. Try to time yourself, try to beat it every day. That's about it. Honestly, it's not all that hard. If you're deadlifting, deadlift variations, rowing variations, and working a little bit every day, you're pretty monster grip pretty quickly. Next one is from my Swedish brother, the MyPro1. He said he asked what my top 5 proudest lifts are. It's tough. I think my 600-pound behind the back deadlift I'm pretty proud of. Not because the weight is all that significant, but because my leverages are so fucking bad for that lift that it took a shit ton of effort to get to that level. Went from 495 to 600 in I think 5 or 6 days, so that's pretty cool. 105-pound bump or whatever. But I'm very proud of that lift, just because, like I said, I'm not built for that lift whatsoever. After that, I think my sissy squats, my 405 for I think 5 or something. Sissy squats I'm pretty proud of, just because my knees didn't explode, and I'm not sure many other people on the planet that can actually do that or were willing to do that and put that amount of effort and risk in. After that, I don't know. That's I don't really think about my lifts too often, my previous lifts. I just think about what's next usually. The second I finish a lift, I think what's next. My 405 Bugenhagen squat, which is the Bulgarian split squat with the bar between the legs, kind of like Jefferson. Pretty damn proud of that, because the first time I tried it on my left leg, I failed 10 times that day and then got it. And then the next day, and it was a sketchy lockout that day, next day I went back to my left leg, pulled 405 so cleanly, so easily, so I'm damn proud of that too. Was that 3 lifts? Goddamn. I don't know, that's the only lifts that really stand out in my mind as me being having some significant pride in them. Before I used to lift, I was into rowing, and I also skied a little bit. And the ski erg, which is like the row machine but the ski version, I was tied for 7th in the world at one point in the 100-meter sprint. And then in rowing, I think I was 14th. I don't know, I'll have to check, but I think 14th in the world in the 100-meter sprint on that too. I was pretty highly ranked in the 500, so I'm pretty proud of those, because those took a lot of effort. But that was quite a while ago, and that was before I did the current type of training I do. I didn't really train for strength, I trained specifically for those things. So, but yeah, that's about all I can think of. That's 5. We'll count that as 5. Again, I'm gonna fuck up your name again, man. I'm sorry. Michael Hermedka. He asked me a couple questions, so I'm going to go through them. He asked me to tell me about myself. Born in Illinois, grew up in Wisconsin. Typical Wisconsin guy, eat a lot of meat, cheese, and butter, chicken, whatever. Went to high school right outside of Kenosha, Wisconsin. Went to college in Milwaukee. After that, moved to Norway. Lived there 6, almost 7 years. I owned a small gym there called That Damned Gym, hence my channel name. It was a small private gym, catered towards serious people. Recently moved back to the U.S. in November, I think. And now I'm here, lifting heavy shit. My lifting beginnings, probably the first time I lifted was in my basement. I had like a shitty Sears, bench where the uprights are like right next to your neck, so you had to hold one side while you put the weights on the other. It was a piece of shit, but that was my first lifting really. When I was in high school, I ran track and cross country, played basketball too, but mainly track and cross country. So I did a little bit of lifting for that. It wasn't sport specific though. I just, push-ups, lunges, whatever. It wasn't really anything specific. But I think because of that willingness to grind every day with running, going to, you almost puke every day for years on end, no days off. I think that's what really attracted me to the Bulgarian style of training, Bulgarian lite specifically, of trying to just push the envelope every single day, not worrying about really, deloading and looking at the long-term picture. I like looking at the short-term. I want that short-term, I want to push as hard as I possibly can. So I think that's what, that running, even though it's the exact opposite in many ways, really led me into Bulgarian style training because of their, work ethic similarities. But then after that, college came, got a little chubby, didn't do anything, didn't lift much, just random again, bench, leg press, bullshit. Then I started getting serious about lifting a couple years later, and I did a lot of power endurance training, because again, I was training for rowing and the skiing, so a lot of stuff like that. I used to follow a gym called Jim Jones out of Utah. They're kind of famous for doing the 300 workout. They train the cast of 300. I modeled my training a lot after theirs, not that workout specifically, because that was a test, but the way they train there is a lot of power endurance, a lot of rowing. And then after that, to supplement my rowing, I started squatting every day. And that's what first led me to Bulgarian type training. So I'd squat in the morning, row in the evening, or vice versa. And worked really well for me. And then got sick of rowing, now here I am. My hobbies, he asked what my hobbies outside of lifting are, which I toot my own horn. I'm pretty musically talented. Started playing piano when I was like 3, took lessons I should say. I sometimes write music for my brother's band, which I will link in the description. His band is Kai Anderson and the Pickups. I've written a few songs for him. The music, at least I don't write lyrics or anything. I'm not that creative. But in the music, help him record sometimes. It's been a while now, but one of my weirder accomplishments, a friend of mine who lived in Norway was in film school and was making a weird-ass European fucking, highbrow, film about a guy addicted to video games, and in one of the scenes he was going to have a sexual fantasy about Tetris, of all things, and they needed a porno song for said scene. So I wrote a pretty badass, if I do say so myself, porno song that's in a Norwegian film somewhere. I've never actually seen the movie, so I don't know, but I'm pretty proud of that. Other than that, I eat a lot. Smoke cigars, it's a bit of a hobby of mine recently. Been not very healthy, but a cigar is pretty fucking relaxing and nice sometimes. Moving on. I'm going to purposely mispronounce your name. Nikok. I think it's Nick0K, but he's my buddy from, I think, Canada. He's too nice to be American, so I'm pretty sure he's Canadian. He asks, he says, gives me a conundrum. A runaway train is heading down the tracks. On the tracks, there are 5 people tied up. There's a second track with only 1 person tied up. Pull a lever, diverting the train onto the side track, where it will kill 1 person, or conventional deadlift and save everyone. What do you do? I say let the motherfuckers die, because ain't no way I'm doing a conventional. I know a lot of people want me to, but nah, it's not gonna. Tra-la-la-la-la-la-la asks, is it difficult to stay motivated when a lot of people can't relate to the lifts I do? Sometimes. I think the people complaining about the smallest minutiae of my lifts, like the cheat rows or oh, is the snatch grip not truly a snatch because you should be a ½ inch wider on each hand, like stuff like that really annoys me, and that makes it a little hard to stay motivated. But I do lift for myself. I want to push my boundaries for me. I don't care if people disagree with how I train or, you know, think I'm stupid, because it is a little stupid. Of course it's stupid. I do some stupid shit sometimes. But no, it's not really, I wouldn't say it's hard to say motivated, because I'm pretty well self-motivated, coffee motivated, helps too. And he also wanted to know if I'm ideologically affiliated with Marxism. I am not, but I'm a staunch socialist. Again, I lived in Norway. I want high-ass taxes, healthcare for everyone, free education. This country in the US that is, could use a little more free education, clearly. But no, I'm not a Marxist, but not too far off. Alexandros Katoulias, sorry if I mispronounced your name. He's asking how I would program 2 exercises on Bulgarian lite for an intermediate. What I would do, if you're going to do 2 exercises a day, it has to be a little bit different than the way I do it. So you probably have to, make smaller bumps every day. You'd probably have to switch one exercise at a time, so one might stall earlier than the other. Depends on what movements exactly and who you are. But what I would probably do is some kind of lower body lift, whether it's a hinge or a squat variation, and then some kind of upper body lift, which I would probably not do a row, just because it would probably overlap too much with whatever you're doing in your lower body, but probably some kind of overhead press. What I would do is for the lower body lift, I would make that the main focus, make that the all-out, hit a top single. And with the upper body, I'd probably do, a little bit higher reps, like 3 to 5 every day, and maybe bump every other day or something like that. Just because with Bulgarian, it's very taxing on the nervous system. You start doing too much, you're not going to progress, you're just going to sink backwards. There's a reason I don't do, sets of 20 deadlift every single day, because that's going to be a little too much. But I would, like I said, focus on the lower body one mainly, and then whatever you have left, use on the upper body lift. It'd be hard. I think what might be smart is to do, keep the lower body what it is, then do mostly strict upper body movements. I probably wouldn't do a push press. I'd rather, have to do a Z press or just a standing overhead press, normal, no legs involved. It depends on the person a lot, honestly. I've done, when I first started, before I was doing what I'm currently doing, I did 4 lifts a day, where I did a deadlift, standard deadlift, a squat, high bar, overhead press, and I did pull-ups every day. What I did was my deadlifts, the range of motion would change. So at the beginning of the week, it'd be a rack pull, and then I'd lower the rack every day until the last day of the week I'd be off the floor, and then I'd do the same weight every day, but just increase the range of motion. And then the next week I'd start over at the high rack and add weight. For the overhead press, I do sets of 3 to 5, and what I do is hit the same weight again every day the whole week, and then the next week I'd add reps until I hit 5 reps, and then drop back down to 3 reps and add weight. With the squat, I think I just hit a daily maximum, wasn't a full out effort, and then the pull-ups I just did a total amount every day, so I'd do 50 for example, the next day I'd do 51, then 52, then 53, broken up however the hell I wanted. It worked okay. I didn't do long-term enough to see huge results. It made my deadlift pretty decent at the time. It was quite a long time ago. Helped my pull-ups a lot. Squat stayed where it was. Overhead press technique improved. There wasn't any huge improvements really though. So the more you add, the less you're going to get out of it, and the more longer term you're going to have to plan. But that's about it. Let's see what's next. Aiden asks what the ideal way to program Bulgarian lite is, as in, do the movements matter or the order? So the way I do it, I for the most part pick whatever exercise I feel is fun, is what's going to be next. But sometimes I'll pick exercises that will lead up to a final exercise. For example, when I was planning on doing the behind the back deadlifts, I want to hit that 600 pound behind the back deadlift. So I did leading up to it was a lot of quad stuff, a lot of stuff I thought would carry over into the behind the back deadlift. I did the sissy squats, so the 405 sissy squats, just with the lean back thing. the Norsk squats, the Norwegian squats, which I think those actually really help a lot. Those are really good movement if you really want to get your quads going. I really recommend that. And then finally, the behind the back deadlift. So sometimes it's planned out. I'll sometimes do things that lead up to another, but for the most part, it's just what I think is fun, what I feel is athletic. I kind of do this sometimes, like the sissy squats aren't necessarily athletic, but they involve a lot of balance. But for the most part, I want things that feel athletic. That's why I don't do a normal deadlift. It doesn't feel athletic to me. I'm not saying it's a bad lift. I'm not saying it's unathletic necessarily. To me, personally, it does not feel athletic. There's no sport where I'm, in this perfect position. So I like a lot of single leg stuff. I like explosive stuff. Like right now I'm doing these trappy, the snatch grip high pulls. It's very explosive, feels athletic, throwing weight around. So that's why I don't like bench press. Laying on your back, you can't really get any less athletic than that. It's a fine lift, again, doesn't feel good to me. Doesn't get my blood flowing. He also asks what my thoughts are on adding in a little extra arm work in conjunction with doing Bulgarian light. So I'm assuming he's meaning some tricep push downs, some curls, whatever. I think it's fine, especially if you're mostly focusing on your lower body. It's not going to hurt as long as you don't go balls to the wall with it every day. Often I'll do my cool down, quote unquote, will be just doing a bunch of pull-ups. I'll do 30 pull-ups just when I'm talking shit to my boys here. So I do, it's not an accessory, it's a cool down. I don't do it high intensity enough to call it an accessory, but it's fine as long as you're not going crazy with it. Bulgarian light isn't the greatest for aesthetics. I don't look like a bodybuilder. I look pretty fucking good with my shirt off, but you're not gonna have like the V taper look doing it probably. You'll look fine. If you get your deadlift up to whatever, 600-700 pounds, you're gonna look pretty good. But it's not for those who are driven by aesthetics at all. But if you want to get strong in the quickest way possible, honestly, it's probably the best way. So again, go for it. Do some curls, do some tricep stuff, you'll be fine. What else is there? Okay, Marcus Bruvik, my boy from Norway, who is the unofficial, or maybe he's official too. He's got the official Norwegian record, I think, and he's got some unofficial individual records. And he's closing in on the squat row record for his weight class. So go subscribe to his channel. He's badass. He's pretty young, and he's got he's gonna be world renowned pretty soon, I'm pretty sure. So follow him now while he's unknown relatively. So he's closing in, like I said, on the world squat record for his weight class, and he wants to know my thoughts on squatting every day. Like I said earlier, my first taste of Bulgarian was squatting every day. I did it John Bros style, where I just work up to a grindy max, and then that was it basically. Did it every day, so there were valleys and peaks and stuff while I was lifting. So one day at PR, the next day I could barely hit 60% of my max. For the most part, it was relatively consistent. I'd add a couple pounds every week, and it really, that was the first time I put any significant amount of size on. I was relatively not small, but I wasn't as large as I am now. Until I started doing that, I put a lot of size on very, very quickly, more so than any other time in my life, really. And I think if you just want to set it unofficially, it's perfect. If you're going to plan for a meet, maybe not the best idea. So if you want to hit in the gym, go for it. You're pretty close. I think you've hit 185 kilo squat now. I think you told me I think you said the record was 210, 220. I'm sorry, I don't know the numbers, man. But honestly, a couple months, you might get it. Just balls to wall squat every day. Probably some accessories in the evening if you have the time to train twice a day. So for a meet, if you want to officially set it, maybe not the best idea. If you want to unofficially set that thing, which who gives a shit, Unofficial record's still a fucking record, so I'd say go for it. Apocalyptical 789 asks what makes lifts interesting. I kind of touched on it before, saying I like things that feel athletic. How the athleticism of the lift is very important for me. I think part of it, I like doing lifts that are a little odd. I like doing ones that are a little bit dangerous. I think adding a little danger makes it spicy. Those hack squats, pretty dangerous. Made it extra fun. because I know most people don't have the balls to fucking try that. So, you know. You also wonder how long I do lifts. I do them until I stall for the most part. Sometimes I'll dick